Okay, we should be good.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the April 13th, 2021 meeting of the Edina Parks and Recreation Commission. And Janet, if you could do the roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioner Thorem, I don't think I saw him on there. Okay. Commissioner Doskotch?
Here.
Commissioner Good?
Here.
Commissioner Haas?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Strother?
Here.
Commissioner Willett? Commissioner Mork? Commissioner McCauley?
Here.
Commissioner Naboski?
Here.
And Commissioner Itis?
Here. Item 3, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second for the approval of the meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second. I'm here, by the way. This is Pat Willett. I was on the wrong link, so I just left and came back. So I'm here.
Gotcha. Okay, mark it down. Thanks. Okay, are you ready
Janet,
for me to
remind-
call the roll?
Yes, please.
Okay. Commissioner Good?
Aye.
Commissioner Haas?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner Strother?
Aye.
Commissioner Willett?
Aye. Here.
Commissioner McCauley?
Aye.
Commissioner Doskotch?
Aye.
Commissioner Itis?
All right. Item number 4, ask for a motion and a second for the approval of the meeting minutes from the previous month.
So moved. Oh, second.
I missed that. Who moved? I'm sorry.
I did. Brian.
Brian, got it. Thank you. Okay. Roll. Commissioner Good?
Aye.
Commissioner Haas?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Commissioner Strother?
Aye.
Commissioner Willett?
Aye.
Commissioner McCauley?
Aye.
Commissioner Doskotch?
Aye.
Commissioner Itis?
All right. Item number 5. Do you want
Chair
to
and
introduce
Chair and members of the commission, before we begin the Braemar Arena and Sports Dome update, I'm just going to ask you a couple of things. If you could mute your microphones if you're not talking, because we're getting a little bit of feedback. Just to go over a couple of things, we are meeting virtually in compliance with the governor's executive order under that guidance, allowing a virtual meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So remember, try to leave your cameras on if possible and use the chat function for technical support or questions that you may have. And then as we just did, we'll use the roll call for the roll call listed on the agenda as the voting order. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Chad Ishins. Chad is the general manager for Braemar Arena and Braemar Sports Dome. And he's going to give you a brief presentation and kind of a recap on the activities that occurred over the last several months and seasons here at the arena and the dome. So welcome to Chad. I will share your PowerPoint presentation here, Chad, and do the best to advance the slides on your direction. So welcome, Chad. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Perry. Good evening, everybody. I'm Chad Ishins. I'm the general manager of Braemar Arena and Braemar Field. It's nice to see a few familiar faces. I actually had to go back into my notes and I noticed that it was back in 2019 was the last time that I think I was in front of this group. So about half of you look familiar to me and welcome. It's nice to meet the other half of you. I've been with the city of Edina for about 5 years now. And it's been a real pleasure, both personally and professionally, getting to know the city and working on behalf of the city and their residents. I've got just a few slides here. I think I've got 4 slides for you tonight. And we'll go through those and feel free to jump in with questions at any time, or if you'd like to save them till the end, that is fine as well. I really kind of struggled a little bit to put this simple presentation together just because I didn't want to focus on COVID. But I think it's almost impossible to not talk about COVID over the last year and how it's affected our operations, both at the arena and at the field. So back 13 months to the day, March 13th, 2020, is when we closed via the governor's order due to COVID, and we were closed for just over 2 months. We got to reopen on June 1st, 2000. And then we had another closure right around the Thanksgiving holiday through the winter holiday season, closed between the 21st of November and reopened on January 4th. So that itself came with some challenges. We were able to keep our full-time staff busy with a number of different projects during those closures. Actually got a lot of work done, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. One of the other effects that we've had is we typically have either 10 minutes between groups on the ice arena, or we can butt up our users at the field. But now, due to COVID, we have a bunch of restrictions that we worry about regarding our capacities and making sure that we're not swapping germs from one group to the next group. So what that means is we now have about 20 minutes in between user groups. So basically you have 10 minutes to come into the facility, you do your activity, and then you have 10 minutes out, and then the next group comes right back in. And that might not seem like a big deal, but if you think about a Saturday or a Sunday at the ice arena, when we're going for somewhere between 12 and 14 hours, that extra 10 minutes really adds up when you multiply it by the 3 or 4 rinks that we have, depending on the season. So we did have a decrease in availability of facility time, both at the arena and the dome. We are still under capacity limits. When we reopened, we would not allow any sort of fans or spectators to come into either facility. And right now we can allow 250 at each facility, and that's a nice number. We had a tournament last weekend, and we were able to allow 4 people in per skater, and that seemed like a real manageable and reasonable number. We had some good feedback from it from both participants and our staff. So we're hoping to continue that through the Memorial Day weekend and then kind of reassess from there. We haven't had concessions open since March 13th, again, 13 months ago. That puts a lot of high school kids out of work. You know, that concession stand will employ somewhere between 40 and 60 generally kids. It's also a significant loss of revenue for the arena as well. So it'll be nice to get back to a spot where we can reopen our concession stand, and hopefully we've got a few changes coming down the pipe that will impress our users as well. We had a number of groups who chose not to come back, even though, you know, with our precautions and safety measures in place. A number of them were adult groups, hockey groups that decided just to pass on the time for whatever reason. Some of them were more concerned from a health standpoint. Others decided to give up their time just to benefit the youth of the community and to give more time to them to do their activities. But they are starting to come back. Many of them actually started last weekend, so it's nice to have them in the building as well. And of course, you know, throughout the last year, we've had instances where teams or individuals were quarantined or tested positive for COVID, and that shut down their groups for a number of days. And then the last thing that's been a bit of a challenge throughout this whole COVID year is just the staffing shortages that it has created. You know, about 40% of our Zamboni drivers, our maintenance staff, part-time staff members, decided not to come back due to COVID. And that's a choice that they made. They're still employed by the city, and we hope to welcome them back sometime soon when they feel comfortable and safe to do so. We continue to see the COVID ripple effects throughout our facility with our staffing. I think we're going just over 2 months now without a case of somebody having COVID or being quarantined. So we had a couple of weeks that we were really close on not being able to keep a rink open, but hopefully we've mitigated that. We're past that now, and we're just dealing with the short-term effects of a few staff being out. Go ahead, Perry. So as much negative as there is around COVID and the struggles that we've had, there are some opportunities, and that's really what I'd like to focus on here tonight and going forward. Like I said, we were shut down for a while, and we were able to get a lot of maintenance projects accomplished at both facilities. The arena is really only closed maybe 5 to 10 days out of the entire year. And with that type of use, we have very little time to get in and do some maintenance that really needs to be done. So we looked at our closures as opportunities. We were able to do some really deep cleaning. We were able to replace some flooring. We were able to do a lot of painting and touch-up work that our staff just can't get to on a day-to-day basis. So we really took advantage of that. And we had a number of customers comment that the building looked really nice when they were able to get back in. Obviously, cleaning is a new focus for us. We have a cleaning crew that comes in at night, a contracted service on top of our part-time staff who take care of each rinks. And we also have some disinfecting procedures in place now as well. So it's nice to have that renewed effort, and not only from our staff, but I think our customers are much more conscious of the things they do, and they're much more willing to pick up their mess before they leave. Our open programming, we've had to do a few things differently there as well. We need to track anybody that's coming into the building, including things like open skating, open hockey, open soccer on the dome side of things. And what we've done there is we have people now sign up, and we've enjoyed that process, and that's something that we're gonna continue to do. The other thing that has happened is because of the lack of our ability to just have people walk in the door and either jump on the field or jump on the ice, people are now buying more time than they would have. So again, we see that as a real opportunity to help us sell field time and sell ice time in the future. All of our payments now are contactless, so people are using their credit card or sending in a check. You know, certainly we would take cash if it comes in, but we kind of discourage that at this point. So that contactless payment, having users prepay when they rent the facility is something that we're gonna look to keep, and a lesson that we've learned throughout this process. Office efficiencies. We've all spent some time out of the office, either working from home or maybe needing to be home with kids or whatever else. But that's also been a real opportunity. This interaction with e-meetings was a bit clumsy at first, but everybody's really gotten used to it. We've had good conversations with our staff electronically. And I can also tell you that we've had a lot less travel throughout the city, whether that be with meetings or being able to do some financial or HR transactions electronically. So that's been a real plus for us as well. The live stream, we now have live streaming in the arena, so you are able to watch Hockey Association and high school games, and our spring and summer tournaments will also be on live stream. So if you're a hockey fan, go to mnhockey.tv. That's our live streaming service that we have. That group covers a number of rinks around the state. They've had great success, and we're going to have a meeting with them on Monday actually to see their initial numbers from January through March. So we're very excited to see that and how we can continue to build that in the future and drive some revenue for the arena as well. And then in preparation for this numbers and decided not to throw a bunch of numbers at you, but one number that I would throw at you is 2.4%. So we're able to run some reports for our facility usage. So we look at the amount of field time that we have, or the amount of ice time that we actually have available. And I was surprised to learn that our utilization efficiency up by 2.4%. So, you know, in spite of all these challenges that we've had with COVID and all the changes and things like that, we still remained a pretty efficient facility, and I'm very proud of our staff and the things that we put in place to be able to do that and maximize the space that we have for our users. Go ahead. Slide, Perry. Thank you. So just a couple things here coming up. The end of this month, on April 30th, the dome is going to be coming down. That's always a big project to take that down and put it back up in fall. Again, that's going to be the last Friday in April. It's a big project. A lot of it depends on the weather. And I really have to say we've had a really good year in the dome. Really been impressed with our staff. The customers and the associations that we work with have been just fantastic to work with this year. We have a new voice evacuation system going in. This is a piece of our fire alarm system in the arena. So that's in process right now. It's going to bring us up to code and make our facility much safer and better tie-in and communication with the fire department if there were a emergency in our facility. Another big project that we have going on, this one is big on the ice side for the arena. It's a dehumidifier for our south arena. The dehumidification is important because it makes the arena, you get fog. That's never good when there's fog hanging out on the ice. Our original dehumidifier was about 25 years old. It got wore out after many years of use, so that is being replaced. And I'd just like to point out that we're getting a lot of help from our facilities group over at City Hall and Public Works, and with our HVAC division as well there. So we're very thankful for that. And I believe the bids for that are going to council this week. I think they're going to be approved, maybe even tonight. So then we should get a start on that. They'll be wrapped up right around the first is our hope. So I'm sure Perry and Tracy have kept you in the loop with our new Parks and Rec software, Civic Rec. The arena and field will be adding one more piece to that that's specific to facilities. So we're doing some homework on that right now, and again in place hopefully again by October 1st. I know that loss funding, you're in the loop on that. If that comes to fruition, that's about $13 million for the arena in maintenance and some upgrades. That process we're looking forward to and seeing how that moves through the legislative process. And then the really good news here is that our demand for ice and field time remains really strong. If we had another hour in the day and we could sell it, it would be sold. The station continues to have a high school and their girls hockey team for their successful season. They've been a great partner through all of this. They take a lot of time, stations, especially soccer, continuing to grow and to utilize the field and look for more time. So, you know, despite the struggles in the last year, I feel we're in a really good position. We've had great support from the folks over at City Hall, Perry and Tracy, all the way up to Scott Neal. Of course, this group here tonight and the City Council. Our staff has been troopers all the way along. They've been filling extra hours. They've done the extra things that it takes to bring our field and bring our arena great. The last thing that I would leave you with is I know there are some new faces here, so if any of you would like to tour our ice arena, our field at any time, feel free to reach out to me. We're always available to do that, and I think we're in a good place where we can do that safely now as well. So with that, I am open to any questions or comments that you might have.
Chad, I have a couple. Just first of all, to thank you for, the hard work over there, and particularly through the last 12 months, exactly 12 months, as you noted. And the live stream, is that a subscription instrument? And where is that available, such as at the golf course, the restaurant? Is it available in your home? Just a little bit more info on just availability of that. And how much does it cost to subscribe, kind of?
Sure, yeah, great question. Again, mnhockey.tv. The high school, Edina High School this year made all of their hockey games free for their users. The Edina Hockey Association and our spring and summer tournaments will have kind of a tiered purchase. So you can purchase one game, and I don't know the exact prices. Some of that varies by tournament. You can purchase a game. You can purchase a weekend pass. During the hockey season, you could even buy a season package. So it's kind of a subscription based, if you would. And then part of our agreement with MN Hockey TV was that all of our city facilities get a free subscription. So the golf course is a good example, or the golf dome. I know that Joe had that up from time to time, different hockey events. We sent the link over to the fire department, the police department, Public Works has it. So any of our city facilities are able to stream that for free. Rick, I think you're muted.
There.
Got you.
Okay.
Hey, Chad, this is
Sorry,
Greg.
did you have another question?
Rick, did you have another question, or was that it?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. Hey, Chad, this is Greg. Just a question on how the relationship with our retail partners, General Sports and Velocity, has gone throughout the past year with COVID. How has that impacted them, and how do you think things look into the future?
Yeah, great question. Of course, Velocity being a workout facility, they fell under some of the same COVID restrictions that we did as an athletic or a recreation facility. So they were closed for a number of months, similar to us, when working out and being in an enclosed space and things like that were shut down by governor's orders. I can tell you that their summer this year is looking good. They have a fair amount of ice booked for us. It sounds like they are kind of getting back into their routine. General Sports did see a dip in visitors as well. Obviously, when you don't have the ice arena open, and that's one of your main drivers is hockey and figure skating equipment, that's tough. So they did cut back on some staff. General Sports, they cut back on some staff. They cut back on some hours, but now they seem to be fully operational. And in speaking to their owner the other day, it sounds like they're in a pretty good place and they're happy where they're at. Once people were able to get out and start skating again, their business really took off. Even when the arena was closed, but the outdoor rinks were open, they sold out of what they called pond skates, kind of that lower level ice skate. They were sold out. So their demand was there, and people were happy to get out, and it was good for their business.
Good. All right. Thanks.
Chad, this is Mike Miller. Two questions. One, you mentioned something about open programming and said that people had to sign up for that. So does that mean an individual going to an open field or open gym at the Dome would have to sign up before going in?
Yeah, great question. For any of our open programming, and we'll just use open soccer as a really good example. We need to be able to contact trace all of the participants of that program. And that's the reason why we have them sign up prior to coming to the facility. So yes, we strongly encourage people to sign up before they show up. Part of that, again, is due to our capacity limits. So open soccer, again, is a good example. Oftentimes it sells out. So if you just show up hoping to sign up when you get there, you're really kind of taking a chance. The walking track at the Dome is another good example. Generally speaking, you can just come in and start walking. This year we had to track everybody that's coming in. So everybody got themselves a little card and we scan that, and that's how we do the contact tracing if somebody were to get sick. Great question.
Okay. All right, thanks. And then second question was, would any of the rules regarding COVID change at the Dome once it comes down? Or is it all stay the same?
Yes, they will change. Right now, the Dome is considered an enclosed facility. It's a big enclosed facility, but it's still an enclosed facility. Once that comes down, it should be treated just like any other open space in the city. So you could, you know, probably consider the same rules that would be happening over at Pamela Park or Portney Fields would be the same rules that will apply at the field.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for me? All right, again, I want to thank you for all you do. We appreciate the support that you give us. And if there's anything that we can ever do for you, any questions, and again, that opportunity to tour, please reach out to me.
Thanks. Thank you again,
Thanks,
Chad. Thanks. You bet.
Chad, before you leave, I just wanted to say thank you as well. I think the commission knows, and we've got a mic open if we, this has been a long 12, 13 months for a lot of our staff, especially our general managers and especially Chad. When we think of, you know, the demands of figure skating and hockey and open skating and indoor athletics, you know, the demand and the expectations, it's been a very challenging year. And from a lot of the caseloads that you heard, we necessarily didn't maybe have an ice arena problem. We had a COVID problem throughout the state. So Chad and his staff had to navigate that, try to protect staff, keep our patrons safe along with all of our other facilities. So it's been a long year and they did a very commendable job, and I just wanted to thank him for that.
Thank you, Perry. Appreciate that.
And he's welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but he probably has an early ice time. If he wants to take off, he can.
We are ready to proceed, I think, with 5B. If you want to do a little introduction, and then I can call on each lead if you'd like, or.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, just a discussion on your annual work plan. If you'd like to provide any updates, we can record those. If you had any questions regarding, you know, connections on getting your groups together, how we can support that, anything you need from staff to continue your direction, or any updates that you wanted to provide. I believe you'll have one more meeting, the May 12th meeting. Again, as a reminder, that'll move from the 11th to the 12th due to the election. But it'll be a short turnaround prior to your joint meeting with the City Council on May 18th. We can talk about that now a little bit. Again, that's a joint work session with you and the City Council. You can provide them any updates on your work plans and have kind of a general discussion with the council at that time. But always wanted to have your work plan on your agenda for discussion for any updates or questions. If you'd like, Chair, I can start with Initiative 1, as Commissioner Strother is the lead, but that group is waiting on information from the city staff and race and equity coordinator. We should have something to you pretty soon. I had a conversation with Heidi just the other day on providing you kind of an initial structure framework for you and Mike and Eileen to look at. that same structure would also go to the HRRC. You will not have to coordinate with the HRRC. So that's one change from the past.
And I would just say if there's any way for us to be helpful in moving it along, anything you need from us, let us know. But otherwise, just happy to wait to see what staff has. Thank you.
Has Corin joined us? Do you know?
No, she is not. I keep watching forward.
On initiative 2, I can say a couple things. We did have one meeting, Greg, Corin, and myself, at Braemar Golf Course. Greg was enjoying a little bit warmer weather than the two of us were here. You know, as the note said, we've looked at some items. We're working on really the content of the discussions that we'd like to take place in the community. So the content, we're working on that. I had spent some time with the director and worked through a couple of things. Perry has furnished us some very good material to use. And the group had talked about using the town talks format initially, since we're going to be unable probably to go out into the community at this point to do a format following that. And we're working, as I said, on content, presentation, segments, you know, time for Q&A and things like that. I have talked to Corin this week. She is in the process of setting up another meeting. We will either do that virtually or we did use the room downstairs at the golf course, which is large enough and to do that. So if you want to add something, Greg, you certainly can. And
Nope, nothing additional for me on that one.
okay.
Rick.
Okay. Eileen, if you'd like to say a few things about number 3.
Yeah, I just sent out an email to try to schedule a meeting. Rick and Perry and I have met on a grid that Perry worked up about the different areas that we might be able to draw funds from and which parks they would apply to. That was sent out to everyone. The special sales tax levy is working its way through the legislature. But we have, it looks like at least 12 areas to look at as far as where we could look for alternative funding and which parks they could refer to. For instance, a special tax levy is probably Fred Richards, Braemar, and Weber Park, which will be voted on by the residents of Edina. But those funds can only go to those 3 areas because of the fact that they're regional in nature. So we will hopefully have a meeting next week and decide which ones we want to pursue, kind of really dig down into the list and see, you know, what's really viable and where we will go from there, and then match that up to the CIP list and where we want to focus our efforts to. And if what I've asked everybody is if you can get back to me on what times work best for a meeting. In person would be great. If you're still not vaccinated, we can also have a Zoom, kind of an in-person hybrid Zoom meeting. So let me know that as well.
Thank you. Matt, you want to take a stab at number 4, please?
You bet. So our group met to discuss initiative 4. And one of the discussion points that came out of that was to get some clarification on the objectives for the initiative, so we understand where we want to end up and what sort of deliverables we might have, so that it's useful to the director and to help direct activity. So I was furnished with some direction, which is that this initiative is tied to the strategic or Parks and Recreation and Trails strategic plan. And in Appendix A, there's an item 2.21, which sort of generated this initiative. And the strategy overall is to match development and redevelopment of park system and maintenance facilities to population growth and demographics changes. And then 2.21 is transition underutilized amenities and replaced with more productive amenities that are tied to neighborhood needs. And then there's a parenthetical that reference Edina level of service standards file, which relates to benchmarking. And so, and then overall, the performance measure related to updating the park master plans to remove outdated amenities. And so anyway, having that background is really useful, I think. And one of the questions that came out of that was whether or not we needed the benchmarking from Initiative 5 to then inform Initiative 4. And I actually don't think so. I think there's enough information that we can pull together sort of in parallel to move the initiative forward through either, information already in the strategic plan. One of the things that we had identified separate from knowing this information in our group meeting related to housing and where housing development projects were and how that might impact parks for underutilization or utilization of those amenities. And so we had already identified that, and it seems to tie already into that strategy as an overall measure. So having that, I think we're going to proceed. We've already put together a rudimentary project plan to figure out, when we're going to do some of the timing for, getting the materials reviewed and coming up with some of the measures. So that's where we're at. I think we'll have another meeting in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Greg, you have anything to add?
Real quick,
Oh,
Rick,
sorry.
before you, I don't know if Greg has any. Greg was at the meeting. I don't know if he has anything else to add to that.
Oh, I thought that was good recap, Matt.
Greg, do you have something to say on 5? Add, please.
Initiative 5, no significant progress this past month. We do have our base benchmarks from our work in 2019. That's a starting point. As Matt mentioned, we did discuss whether there was any strong connectivity with initiative number 4. And I think we'll stay connected, but it's not a direct feed to it. And so I've got a commitment to establish a call with the team. I'll reach out to everyone before the end of this week so that we can kind of sit down for a meeting to push this forward before our May report to the city council.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Item 6, commission comments.
This is Julie, Commissioner Strother. It's not so much a comment, but maybe a question. Do we know, and it's hard because we're sort of getting updated guidance, I know, from the governor and the Department of Health and the CDC, but what we're planning for like the pool, the aquatic center, some of the summer programming, I know we're signing folks up for, but have we, and by we, I mean the city, been getting guidance from the state about what they expect the requirements to be around some of those activities for the summer?
Thank you, Julie. Maybe Tracy wants to add on this because she's kind of been taking a lead on a lot of the enterprise and programming side. But in a short answer, no, we've not received a lot of new guidance. But Tracy and her staff are very well connected within their professional organizations, trying to find best practices. Tracy, did you want to add anything about maybe where planning things are at and what expectations residents and participants should consider?
Yeah, Commissioner Strother, thank you for the question. I think in terms of aquatics, we're hoping, within the aquatic industry, they've heard that there might be an update coming shortly, but we are kind of planning for, plan A, plan B, for open, being able to open more at full capacity, or if we're going to have to do something with limited capacity and do more of a reservation system. So we're a little bit in limbo as far as the aquatic center. In terms of programming, we're hoping to see some change in the maximum that we can allow for kind of that youth playground program. But I think we're set up staff-wise to be able to have some flexibility. So if that number does drift up and we're able to have more, Amanda Clark has done a great job with the staffing model. So we'll be able to work within anything that would increase with those numbers. So we're cautiously optimistic, but again, it's been a while since we've had an update. So we're hoping hoping soon that there's something, even before school would get out, or sooner, April or May would be nice.
And I appreciate that. I will just say, I know we often talk about particularly the enterprise facilities operating, paying for themselves. And that is always a goal. I will just say, I imagine this year that's not going to be the case for most of our enterprise facilities because we're being asked to operate them at reduced capacity or all the additional requirements on it. And I guess my 2 cents here for the folks who are working on that is that we're in a what is hopefully a short-term situation, longer than we'd like it to be, but this is not hopefully how we're going to be in 2 years from now. And so to the extent getting like the aquatic center or other things open and operational, even if it's not the same efficiency we're normally used to, my 2 cents for what it's worth is I think that'll be good for residents of Edina to have those facilities functioning again. I know they were missed last summer, so that's all I have.
And I think just to clarify, even though we don't have guidance, our plan is to open the aquatic center. So
That's great.
Eric, I have a couple things this evening. First, building off of Chad's visit, just some recognition and congratulations to our Edina High School girls hockey team, claiming the state AA championship last Saturday, April 3rd. So they completed an undefeated season, managed to also defeat COVID and not get knocked down by that at all. And this marks the 4th state title in the past 5 years under Coach Reber. So great recognition for the team, for what the coach has done, and a nice tie back to our arena work and the fact that they're the host and the home ice for those girls. So just wanted to give them a shout out this evening. Secondly, I've had 2 instances kind of cross my desk or my inbox over the past week or 10 days on mountain biking, and just wanted to raise that back up because for those of you that have been on the commission for a while, you know that's something that has it's been in front of us for quite some time. We built it into the Braemar master plan. We've had the Edina High School mountain bike team show up with many of their team members a number of years ago to really keep pushing us to keep mountain biking on the forefront. And so I did want to raise that again. The one comment to me was from a community member who had heard about the lost funding and was then concerned that the Braemar project was going to get tied to the lost funding, which could then push this back at least a couple years or more, and really have to now tie our hopes to getting a state approved tax increase. And that's just so it made me think, Eileen, about initiative number 3 and the work we're doing on alternative funding. Similar to what we did with the playground at Fred Richards, are there opportunities to carve out pieces of some of our master plans, right? So if we really wanted to build some momentum around funding mountain bike trail at Braemar that fits the master plan, is that something that might fit as an alternative funding idea? But just wanted to raise that back up in front of the commission because I do continue to hear that in the community. And that tied also with some discussions on some of our social networking about Bredesen Park. And apparently some neighbors around that community that had some complaints around a small little quote unquote mini mountain bike trail and at Bredesen that had been altered, I guess is the word that was being used, and they were being discouraged from using it as a trail for younger riders. So just was curious as well if there's an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what may have happened at Bredesen and what the plans and intentions were behind that. So those were the couple things I had just to raise this evening.
Chair, would you like staff to talk about those?
Yes. Yeah. Could you respond to that, please?
Absolutely. We'll kind of split those in half. Assistant Director Swenson will talk about the Bredesen Park, and I'll talk a little bit more about the lost proposal. And as you know, in reviewing our capital improvement programs, the Braemar master plan and the portion of that plan that is mountain biking, as well as the Fred Richards master plan, are unfunded and therefore unscheduled. So there isn't any dedicated carve-out funding for mountain biking. I have talked to a couple of supporters over the last month or so and kind of explained that process to them that as of right now, this is the path forward for that process without any other funding identified or a source of funds that we could move that forward. So as it sits right now, that is the identified source that we would use to move forward with both of those master plans, mountain biking included. I think if the lost proposal isn't successful at the legislature, Commissioner Good, I think you're correct. We would have to look at prioritization. I think, the worry I have is once you break apart a master plan, you start setting priorities, you might not get back down to some of those other priorities. They were very important to include in a plan. They represented some portion of the community's interests, but once you kind of go into a hierarchy, it's not easy to sometimes get back to those. That is just one concern globally, I think, to consider when it comes to prioritizing or breaking apart a master plan. I would say mountain biking is one of the most popular calls that I get related to the Braemar master plan is the implementation of those trails. Kind of the same with Fred Richards, right? There are multiple pieces of that. There's the nature bank, the central green, the active areas. Again, if we aren't successful with a local option sales tax, again, how do we prioritize? And we would be forced then to most likely split those up. And I think it really helps, identifying, initiative number 3 with if this isn't an option, what other mechanisms can we look at with alternate funding to get that back in front of the city council to say, can we kind of, as you've indicated, create a menu of options for them to fund some of these improvements. So,
Sorry, thanks, Perry. And I was just going to ask if we had a perfect world scenario on timing for a local option sales tax, what might we plug in for a likely when do we believe funding would come available? Going through state approval, going through now a referendum, et cetera, et cetera. When does it become money into a capital budget?
That is one of the concerns about local option sales tax. It would have to pass through the legislature, which would hopefully be the midpoint of 21. The process then is Edina residents would have to vote within a ballot question. I believe it would be a la carte. There would be one vote for Fred Richards, one vote for the Braemar master plan, and one vote for Weber Woods. That would occur at the next general election, which would be November of 22. And then funding would roll in most likely post 2023 for implementation. One strategy would most likely to be do revenue bonding, correlated to that sales tax that comes in to get started earlier. Again, that would be a council discussion and consideration at that time. But even if the legislature would authorize it this session, it would still be that 22 referendum, 23 implementation.
Okay, thanks.
And then Commissioner Good, I could follow up on the Bredesen trails unless you have another question for Perry.
Nope, that'd be great. Thanks, Tom.
So we have off-road bike trails that show up all over throughout Edina. Kids are always, trying to stay active and do little projects in their neighborhood. Bredesen Park has had these types of trails for years, but the original intent of Bredesen Park was really to be a natural area with dedicated walking and biking trails. Over the last couple of years, the activity at Bredesen has grown enormously. Kids are bringing shovels there, expanding the area. It has crossed over the interior bicycle trail. If you drive by on Olinger Boulevard, you can see it from the road now. The residents that live near there had some concerns, and just general park users have been reaching out and asking us to preserve and protect the natural setting of this park, because that was the original intent of Bredesen Park. So occasionally when these types of items grow to the point of raising so much concern, throughout the community, we'll go in with equipment and flatten it all out just to minimize the scope back to the original natural setting. So we did that a couple weeks ago. I've got calls really on both sides of the equation. The community is pretty split on it. I'll say, you know, people with younger kids are looking for opportunities to get their kids out on trails, and they're looking for trails in the future at Braemar Park. And then the other users that are there just to enjoy nature and bicycle and walk are concerned about the impact to nature. So we're trying to balance really both needs. But at this time, we flattened out those trails and put it back to its natural elevations.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And it's, you know, building off of what Perry was just sharing with us and considering the popularity of the activity and the do-it-yourself nature of some of our community members. It's just too bad that we don't have a planned alternative that looks like it's going to be any closer than 2 years out, right? We kind of get ourselves stuck here in a situation where we just don't have another answer yet. So it can be frustrating, but thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments or questions from anybody? I did add something as I listened to Greg just now. You know, in our initiative number 2, I think the questions that you had received via the mountain bikes and hearing Tom and the director speak, that could be some of these items, not just the mountain bikes themselves, but to gather some of these things that the community as a whole is wondering about and build them into perhaps an item or a talking point, not in great depth, but at least give them a time horizon. You know, and if it's 2023 realistically, to be, you know, transparent. But that's, I think, some of those things we should talk, you know, consider talking about in our initiative number 2 as well. So.
Yep, it's a good idea, Rick.
Perry, if you want to do the staff comments, you and Tracy.
Sure, I'll jump in here and get these started, and then if Tracy and Tom, if you had anything to add as I go through. If you haven't heard, the Braemar Golf Course has opened. We did open in March 30th, end of the month. You would not know it if you looked out the window tonight, however, but we did beat last year's opening by about 2 weeks. The golf course did launch a new website, ability to pay online, braemargolf.com. Kind of really learning through last year's issues with closure of building access, phone calls, the ability now to pay online for items, reserve online, purchase, driving range, buckets online is all there for people. And as when you looked at the fee schedule, just a reminder, there is a break on pricing for booking online. Again, making that a little bit easier on hopefully the customer in the long run over the summer and staff as well. Edinburgh Park has reopened. That has been a welcome addition to the park system. There's a limited basis, so it is, again, COVID safe, COVID guidelines. As you know, kind of Commissioner Struthers, I think, indicated earlier, the community really is looking for opportunities within our park system, so you can book through multiple sessions. Again, those are contained in occupancy size, as well as some semi-private reservations that are an options for folks as well. As mentioned earlier, the local option sales tax. At the time we put the packet together, we were notified that the Edina request had been included in the House omnibus tax bill, so that was a huge step. And we're recently notified that State Senator Franzen has introduced it in the Senate. So now we have a companion in the Senate that's introduced. Again, a lot of work will be required to get that through the state legislature and ultimately a signature by Governor Walz. To take a second to, I've appreciated the support that the commission has given us over the summer and the fall and over last winter on the creativity that our programming staff has dedicated to. Tracy and her team, it's really nice to kind of get that recognition from your peers. So the department was recognized by the Minnesota Parks and Recreation Association with several awards of excellence on some of our programming here. So really a and again, a thank you to Tracy and Amanda, Nicole and Tiff and the rest of the staff. Tom's staff had a lot to do with that behind the scenes, getting things prepped and ready to go for them as well. But and Janet took all those phone calls, right? So we got to thank Janet too. So she handled all those registrations for us. Not exactly sure if we had this in last month's opening, but the senior center has opened again for limited in-person programming. A lot of that is capacity size, pre-registered programming. So kind of also learning from being a COVID safe environment, they're continuing to do the drive-through events as well for people. And then again, summer employment recruitment. We've got a number of our facilities that have done a remarkable job of getting up to staffing levels. I think the one area we do continue to have concerns is if you know of lifeguards. That is the number one need we have right now. I believe we try to get around the mid 60s in lifeguards. Last Tracy and I talked, I think we were right around the 40s. So we are desperately looking for lifeguard assistance over the summer. We train, we pay you to train, we will get you certified, and we'll try to keep you safe over the summer as well. So those are kind of the informational items that I had this evening, unless anyone else had any additions.
Perry, what's the age for lifeguards, minimum age?
I believe it's 16 or over.
Okay.
Tracy's nodding. Tracy knows, I'm guessing 16 or over.
Thanks.
Upcoming meetings?
Thank you, Chair. Just a list of your upcoming meetings. Reminder, as we indicated earlier, your May meeting has moved one day up or one day out to May 12th. That is a Wednesday to comply with the Edina School Board election evening. And then a reminder that the joint session with the City Council is that following Tuesday, May 18th. Both of those meetings will be virtual. Just so you know, the administrative staff is working on a plan to bring us back to some fashion of hybrid pseudo in-person in the event the governor's executive order expires. The City Council, I believe, wants to be the first group back to go in person, and then work out the details on what commission meetings for the other 10 commissions would look like. And that might be a combination of in-person and virtual, or greater space for an in-person meeting. So we will keep you informed on that and any decisions or options that we receive, but just know they are working on that. However, May will be a virtual month.
Just one small correction. It's not a school board election. It's the levies, the school levies for the tech, the renewal of the tech levy, and another levy for providing buses for special needs kids. So that's May 11th. And so it's a levy election, not a school board election.
Thank you, Commissioner McCauley. You're correct. I should have said Edina School District ballot question. That would have been more appropriate.
No other items, I don't believe. There aren't any. So I'll ask for the motion and a second for adjournment, and then Janet can do the roll call.
So moved.
And seconded.
Second. Oh my gosh. Okay.
I wasn't sure what was going on there. Okay. Commissioner Good,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Nelson.
Aye.
Commissioner Strother,
Aye.
Commissioner Willett,
Aye.
Commissioner McCauley,
Aye.
Commissioner Doskotch,
Aye.
Commissioner Itis.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night.
Stay warm.